Welcome back to The Perspective, everybody, right here on WWSU 106.9. Happy Friday to all of you. Joining us now is Mr. Jason Doyle, who's the public address announcer with Wright State University, also the creative director with WDTN Channel 2 here in Dayton. Jay, you may have heard him at basketball games. You may have heard him at basketball or volleyball games. You hear him everywhere while you're here at Wright State. Jason, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Parker, it is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you are obviously well regarded as the ultimate hype man. We had the volleyball team in for an interview a few weeks back, and they had nothing but nice things to say about how Jason gets us ready for matches whenever we're there at McLean. So what's the mindset when you pick up that microphone and read down that list?
Well, the first thing is I will tell you this. I've been doing it for a while now, but every time that I can get ready to turn on the microphone, I don't know how it is for you doing broadcast, but I still have those butterflies.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a good thing. I think if you ever lose the butterflies, maybe, that passion has kind of passed you by. So to be the ultimate hype man, I'll take that moniker. I think because, I know by looking at me, it may, surprise you, but I wasn't a great athlete. I was an average athlete. But I loved sports, and I wanted to be around sports. And so when I get to do Division I contests on the PA mic for whatever sport it may be for Wright State, it kind of makes me feel like, okay, that's my D1 moment, And so I try to, every time, whether it is a basketball game or a volleyball match or a soccer match, baseball game, whatever it is, when I'm on the microphone, my goal is to obviously – give out the information the best I possibly can, but it's all about the student athletes. I want them to enjoy it. And to hear when student athletes say, hey, Jason is such and such or does such and such job, that is the ultimate compliment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the same deal on this side. You get the butterflies, you stand up. It's just like you're taking the field. You hear the national anthem and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, right? So it's the same nerves, especially on this side of the microphone as well. But how did you get into PA announcing with Wright State? It was something you did before Wright State, or was Wright State your first kind of deal?
No, again, it's funny. I grew up in Indiana, and when you grow up in Indiana, you must play basketball. And every house has a basketball goal pretty much on every street. And I thought I was pretty good, but, I wasn't good enough to really play. And so I actually got cut my 8th grade year. And, it was devastating, growing up in Indiana and getting cut. But I wanted to be around my friends. So I asked the coach at the time, I said, hey, can I manage and just be around some of the players and my friends? And so he allowed me that opportunity. Well, the first time I ever did PA was at a tournament on a Saturday morning. I was managing. It was 4 teams, so it was like a morning session, an afternoon session. And we played in the first game, and then in the second game, we're scouting the other 2 teams. And for some reason, I got zoned in on the PA announcer. I thought the guy was just really, really good. And there was a break in between the morning and afternoon sessions, and I went with a couple buddies to get some popcorn or a drink, and all of a sudden I looked over and I saw the PA announcer sitting by himself. And I told my buddies, I said, hey, over there, that's the PA announcer. I think I'm going to go tell him he's really good. And they looked at me like I was on drugs. What? Why would you want to go talk to this guy? What are you talking about? And I went over to him. I said, my name is Jason Doyle. I'm the manager on the Oak Hill basketball team. I just want to let you know, I think you're really good at what you do, and maybe someday I'll get to do what you do. And I'll never forget what he said. He looked at me and said, you're a manager on the Oak Hill team. I said, yes. He goes, you won your first game. I said, yes. You're playing in the championship. I said, yes, sir. He goes, well, your players better than I do. Won't you do their starting 5? I nearly had a heart attack, 13 years old. And I went back to my buddies and I said, hey, I'm going to do our starting 5. And they said, no way. Come on, you're crazy. And I did. And I will tell you, that first time, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I literally was so nervous. But once I did it, I turned on that microphone, I fell in love. I knew right then and there, I said, I'm going to do this in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to do it. So I got into high school, and I just knew if I got cut my 8th grade year, when the school gets bigger and the competition gets tougher, my athletic director at my high school knew that I wanted to go into broadcasting, and knew that maybe this is something I wanted to do. And he said, "Hey, do you want to do some sports?" And I said, "Sure." He goes, "By the way, we'll also pay you." And I was like, "Wait a second, are you serious?" So all my friends are upset about playing time and not getting on the floor, and here I am, picking up checks. It was the greatest thing ever. I did pretty much every sport in high school, football, basketball. What's funny is in high school I didn't do volleyball, which we can get into later, but it's really kind of funny that one of my favorite sports now is a sport I never did. But I did it in high school, all through high school. I did a little bit in college. My senior year at Purdue University, there was an opening for the women's basketball PA announcing job, and they auditioned 4 people, 3 kind of what I would call pseudo-celebrities, people in radio, people in the business, and 1 student, and I was that student. Now, I had already accepted a job in Indianapolis. I knew more than likely I wasn't going to get it, but I felt like, okay, I got that opportunity. I can do this outside after graduating college. So to your question about Wright State, it's all about really, timing and meeting people, the right people. It really is. I will tell any student that's looking for that opportunity, it's all about timing. And it's really all about relationships.
Yeah.
You mentioned I work for WDTN. We also own the Dayton CW station in town, WBDT. And they had a marketing relationship with Wright State Athletics. And when we bought that station, I got to meet Bob Grant, at the time still is the director of athletics. And one summer, it was probably 2010, 2009, right before the fall season began, we had a launch party to launch all our new programs. Bob Grant was at that event. I was there, obviously representing the station, as well as my colleagues. And I'm not going to lie to you, I think I might have had some liquid courage in me because it was a nighttime event. And I finally just said, I'm going to go up to Bob and say, hey, this is something I want to do. I haven't done it in about 10, 13 years, but I think I'm okay at it. If you need somebody. And I walked up to Bob and said, hey, I did some PA when I was in high school and a little bit in college. I miss it. If you ever need a fill-in, let me know. And I'll never forget what Bob told me. He said, I don't make those decisions. At the time, his sports information director's name was Bob Noss. He goes, Bob makes those decisions. I'll email him tomorrow morning and let him know of your interest. I walked back to my colleagues thinking, that was all nice, but he's a Division I athletic director. I'm pretty sure the guy's pretty busy with a lot of things. He's not going to remember the next day that this guy that he barely knows wants to do PA. But that's really the first time I realized BG was a little different, and different in a great way. Because that next morning, I received an email, and it was from Bob Noss, who said, hey, unfortunately, we're pretty much full for the whole year. Why don't you come out and just see how we do things the Wright State way at some of our events? And maybe next summer, there might be some things that open up, and we'll talk then. And that's really how it started. I did exactly what he asked. I went to a number of different Wright State athletic events that next summer, which was the summer of 2011. I met Bob at a Frickers on a hot summer day, and he said, hey, we'd love for you to help us out. We're going to start you out in volleyball. And I was like, let's do it. And I had no idea anything about volleyball.
Right.
But I said, I'm in. And so I've been doing it since 2011.
So that's a very similar situation to, us here. Last year when Shay called me and said, hey, you're going to do volleyball, I said, I know nothing about volleyball. This is not going to go well. But he said, that's all right. You'll figure it out. You got it. And I did, obviously. But that's awesome. And I think, and I had a similar story with, you mentioned, doing it 13 years old. Similar story. I'm sure you know who Alan Roach is.
Oh, yeah.
I had him on this show, and he talked about the same story where he said, I was at a minor league baseball game, and when one of his friends went up into the press box with him, he saw the guy in the corner doing PA and said, if you ever have an opening, I'd like to try that. Yep. So they let him do it for a weekend, and then after that, they said, we're not going to let the other guy come back. So yeah, I always love those types of stories about how the you got the start, and it always seems either there's somebody's losing their job, or somebody, or
that's right.
Yeah, the guy's sitting in the corner, but you're like, that's really cool. So that's a great story. So for basketball, what's I know, like we talked about butterflies earlier, when the Nutter Centers jam-packed and you're getting ready to pick up that microphone, is it something that is the crowd involved with kind of your emotions or the energy? And obviously you're the guy that gets the crowd going. So what's the mindset when it's, the Nutter Center's packed to the brim and we're ready to see Wright State basketball take the floor?
It's so funny. It's a great question because I know this answer is probably going to sound a little weird, but when I'm about ready to go on, I try to put myself in a little bit of a bubble because it is all business. I don't consider it a job. I know it is a job because I have responsibilities, but I don't consider this a job. I love what I do.
Right.
And when it is a packed night inside the Nutter Center, the emotions definitely get to you. Anybody that knows or heard my voice knows that I'm a pro home team guy. When a Wright State player scores or does something well, and you also know when the other team scores, and I'm not very excited. But I'm, respectful.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to go overboard. But I will tell you, I get just as excited on a Friday night inside McLean when the volleyball team is playing Northern Kentucky for, first place in the Horizon League, as much as I get excited for 8,000 fans inside the Nutter Center, because I still feel like it's all about the energy. And the fans do bring the energy. There's no doubt about it. And more fans, obviously more energy. But there is something special when it is a big game on ESPN at 9 o'clock on a Friday night that, a lot of people are watching. And believe me, I have a lot of friends and family who will, when those games are on, will be sending me texts saying, "Hey, I hear you. I see you pumping up the crowd." It's a great feeling. It's fun. It actually, again, like I said, I kind of describe it as me being that D1 athlete. That's my D1 athlete moment, even though I'm the farthest thing from a D1 athlete.
Yeah, and we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that Friday night 9 o'clock game on January 28th when the defending champions Cleveland State Vikings come to the Nutter Center. So that's your Super Bowl this year.
I've already
Jason.
got it circled.
There
Can't
you
wait.
go. And one thing that you said that stood out to me, that I think is awesome, is when going into it, it's you put yourself in a bubble and you block out all the noise, and I think that's something that both myself and you and Shay sitting here in the studio with us can relate to, and so with volleyball, we talked about it here at the top of the interview, but they just love you, and if you're on, and I know you're on Twitter, and if anybody out there listening is on Twitter, the volleyball team reveres Jason as one of the ultimate hype man. But talking about the successes that Wright State volleyball has had over the past couple seasons here, and I know I know you can relate to it because we've had the same experiences. But being able to be around the athletic department and getting to know people like Bob Grant and Nick Phillips and Joylyn Brown and among others is really the coolest part about it.
It is. I mean, when they talk about how Wright State is a family, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and I love the PSA moniker that Bob Grant instilled with this athletics program. People first, students second, athletes. I think for me, and I have to go back to volleyball. I will tell you, I have full disclosure. When I started in 2011, was my first year of volleyball. The volleyball program was down. I think that's probably why they put me there, because they were getting beat often. And I will tell you, I was terrible when I first started doing volleyball. Not terrible in the sense that I couldn't do introductions and do timeout reads and those types of things. But once the sport started, I didn't sing anything. I was so impressed, even with a program that wasn't that great, at the athletic ability and the speed of the sport. And I give a lot of credit. That first year, that coach left, was let go of her duties after that first year. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know who it was, but halfway through the season, the assistant sports information director at the time, Matt Zerger, who's unfortunately passed away in 2020, came up to me, and he was kind of not an angry guy, but he's just one of those guys who kind of didn't really, like, hey, they have this piece of paper here. They have some notes, some ideas for you to maybe say some things after points and all that stuff. And I truly believe, when you know you need the help, you got to drop the ego. And even though I thought I was a good PA announcer, I wasn't a great volleyball PA announcer. So they gave me some notes, and I didn't take them all, but I did see some things I really, really liked. And so slowly but surely, I started to kind of gain that experience and gain that confidence doing volleyball. So much so, like I said, I love volleyball matches inside McLean. And truth be told, full disclosure, I have a huge crush on the volleyball program. I think it's the only senior class in my entire time that has actually stopped me. A parent stopped me one time after a match, and they gave me a gift, thanking them and wanted to take pictures with me. And I was like, wait a second, I'm just the PA guy. But it really meant a lot to me that, they do hear their names. And, if I can give them a little bit of joy while also playing great volleyball, it's everything you'd want, from a guy that, again, knew little about the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that's something I wanted to get into. Even coming into college, I had no intention of doing radio or any type of broadcasting of any sort. In high school at our football games, we had a PA announcer named Bobby T, and he had been the PA announcer for 35 years or whatever it is. And I was, Bobby T, you're awesome. And I was like, I want to try that out sometime. So if I ever get the chance to do PA, I would more than happy to do it. But let's shift gears here for a second for away from Wright State. We're both Indiana guys. What is happening to our Colts, Jason? What is going on there?
Oh, I tell you, I love NFL football, and I love my hometown Indianapolis Colts. And I don't know. I will tell you, Monday night was a tough one. When you're up 16 points, 9 minutes to go in any NFL game, in any football game, to know that you have to be scored on twice and have two-point conversions to be successful to even get it to overtime, and then also have opportunities to kick field goals to possibly put the game out of reach. It's tough, because I really thought this team, especially in the division they're in, has the opportunity to win that division. I mean, Tennessee's a decent football program, but I think that, I just think that we have the players to get it done, but it just has not been the case. I really was disappointed in the defense in that fourth quarter. And I'm sure they were gassed, but, you got to step up. And believe me, I have Lamar Jackson on one of my fantasy football teams. Believe me, I loved all the points that he gave me. And he gave me a lot. But to not get any pressure and to really kind of force him to do things that maybe he's not comfortable with that I saw in previous weeks he played, because, again, he's my starting quarterback, so I have definitely kept ties, was just disappointing. But fortunately, that start of that schedule for us was brutal. It's a really brutal start. We do have, there's no cupcakes in the NFL, so you got to go in and compete every week. But I'm hoping they can turn it around. Tennessee comes to our place here before the end of the season, so hopefully that'll be one loss for them. But we've got to definitely go on a little bit of a roll here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So you're a Purdue alum, a Boilermaker at heart. Which when I first met you, we had a quick conversation, and you asked me the golden question of all Indiana raised people: IU or Purdue? That's the golden question. And what was my answer, Jason? It was the Indiana Hoosiers. Sadly,
it was the Indiana Hoosiers. But you know what? Half my friends in life, best friends in life, are IU grads, and it's all good. I love the rivalry, and I think that, honestly, in this market is what really frustrates me about Wright State and UD not playing in basketball.
It does, yeah.
Because I just don't understand it. In Indiana, all the schools play IU or Purdue, Indiana State, Butler,
they have
Vincent, Valpo.
Right, they have a tournament called the Hoosier Classic.
Correct, yeah. So I don't get it. I wish that would come back. It just, especially coming from a state that loves basketball so much. And I think that's why when I first moved here, I moved to Dayton, the Dayton area in 2002. Again, I came here and all I knew was really Dayton. I've heard of Wright State and knew of that. But when I really was kind of, I think even in the first year, I bought like a UD hat thinking, okay, hey, I'm from Dayton. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is my new identity. But then I was like, wait a second. You're from Indiana. You're not an IU guy. You go for the underdog, the team that, the school that doesn't get all the praise. So if you're going to be in this market, you're not going to be a UD guy. You got to be a Wright State guy.
Yeah.
And so I quickly switched my affiliation for the teams I rooted for. And so, yeah, I mean, Purdue is a great place. It gave me a tremendous degree and lifelong memories. And our basketball team should be pretty good this year. And I know Wright State's playing them this year. So that when I saw that on the schedule, I was on cloud nine. I can't wait. I'll wear a half jersey, I think, on that night.
Absolutely. Of course, Wright State visits Purdue at the Mackey Arena in West Lafayette coming up here on November 16th. It's a Tuesday night. That'll be on the Big Ten Network. But, all right, so wrap up here. Really appreciate your time. Jason Doyle joining us here on The Perspective on WWSU 106.9. I have a quick request for you. And would you be willing to introduce the WWSU staff? So I gave you a list, and if you're willing, we'll let you do your thing here.
It would be my honor for all these people. I will do my best and hopefully not make any mistakes. And yeah, absolutely, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, Jason, microphone's yours. Welcome to the WWSU studios, and here's the starting lineup.
Awesome. I hope I don't blow this mic out here, and if I do, forgive me. But
no, it's all good.
All right. At General Manager, a 6'2" senior from Dayton, Ohio, Shay Neal. The Program Director, a 5'8" junior from West Alexandria, Ohio, Scotty Kramer. The Chief Engineer, a 5'8" senior from Dayton, Ohio, Patrick Schmalstig. The Marketing Director, a 5'8" senior from Beaver Creek, Ohio, Anna Jones. The Music Director, a 5'9" sophomore from Inglewood, Ohio, Bella Skank. And the Sports Director, a 5'10" sophomore from Noblesville, Indiana, Parker Testa.
Round of applause, Jason. That was fantastic. Jason Doyle, thank you so much for your time here on this Wednesday afternoon. Perspective right here on WWSU 106.9. Jason, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Back to the show in just a quick second.